And a little bit of information there, you can see Johan noting down something seen in that hand. So the way a mulligan works, when you start your 7-card hand, if you don't have a basic Pokemon there, you can't put one into the active, so you can't start the game. In that situation, you'll show your hand to the opponent, prove there's no basic there, and as a reward, your opponent will then get an extra draw at the start of the game.
Yep, it's one of those things where you need to have a basic Pokemon to start any game in the Pokemon trading card game. So almost as an apology, you say, well, here you go, I'll try again, and gain a card. It's usually with these archetypes, roughly 10 plus basics in most of these decks, so it's not too common of an occurrence, but it's one of those things, and that little extra card can give players a small advantage. I always love to start with an additional card in my hand.
Yeah, exactly. And you look back to the World Champion deck of Iron Thorns that had 4 basic Pokemon, so there was a lot of mulligans there.
Yes.
So it's important to be aware of these kinds of differences, and to start off the game for Johan, currently waiting for 2 mulligan cards to draw, and if there's a basic here for Johan, we'll get an extra 2 cards in that starting hand. It looks like another mulligan.
Not ideal for you, but it's one of these things. You know, especially from the Dragapult side, you're used to lowering your opponent's hand size throughout the game. It's normally a big part of your strategy. Disruption is the name of the game for the Dragapult. You're going to typically go behind in prize cards and try and catch back up by disrupting your opponent later on. So sure, giving your opponent some additional mulligans will give them better opening turns, but it might not necessarily be the biggest issue for you.
We were speaking about how chill Johan is on stream. You've experienced being on the stream table. How much that pressure really starts to build up as you're shuffling that first hand, because you want to see what your start is going to be like. You want to know if you're going to have a strong starting hand. So all these mulligans are really building up tension right now for Johan.
Yeah, you're nervous about your own hand. You're nervous that you don't want to make a fool of yourself like I have before on screen playing games. But Johan is casual. He's calm. He's said in interviews that he's been okay. And I think in some ways, Johan has already had earlier today that head slap moment, that whoopsie moment, and he still found his way into the top cut. So hopefully, with the nerves shaken off of saying, well, the worst has already happened, now I can just play my heart out in this top 4.
And here we go, the prize cards being placed out there, and we see some grass energy early on there for Johan, but across the board, nothing too crazy. Maybe that Palpad and Mew for some consistency.
The Mew EX is definitely a crucial card to help you out, but here we go. We are getting into our top 4 match here at the Utrecht Special Championships. Looks like Johan will be kicking us off. Already has that Fan Rotom in his opening hand, in addition to the Teal dance from his Teal Mask Ogerpon in the active. Mike, as we go through this first turn, tell us a little bit about this Raging Bolt archetype.
So you're looking to take big attacks with Raging Bolt EX, doing 70 damage for each energy discard for 1 lightning and 1 fighting, and that's where that Ogerpon comes in so key, as it accelerates energy into play with its ability, plus giving you a little bit more draw. So the deck aims to get early aggression off with loads of energy coming into play, lots of cards drawn, but it does have a little bit of a weakness to disruption, which is what we'll likely see in this game.
It's one of those things where to reach massive damage, there has to have some sort of drawback. That Bellowing Thunder can reach higher than essentially any other Pokemon in the game right now in the standard competitive environment, but that drawback is you remove those energy as you go. So it's a constant rebuild of your resources as you churn through these massive knockouts.
And that Fan Rotom there, a key part of all of these knockdown engines, that Fan Call ability on your first turn, able to search for 3 Pokemon of colourless type with 100 HP or less. And typically you'll see 2 Hoots and a Noctowl, or in this case you have that Ditto. Really useful to find every different Pokemon in your deck.
The Transformative Start Ditto has a really interesting ability. You can only use it on the first turn, and you have to get this Ditto into the active position, but if you do, you can swap the Ditto with any Pokemon within your deck. And with Fan Rotom helping out here, you have great access to the Ditto, and then you can transfer it into a more useful Pokemon. And in this instance, Johan is going to be immediately transforming that Ditto, possibly looking towards the Raging Bolt. There it is. This is a crucial single prize attacking threat, thanks to that Thunderburst Storm attack.
And we talk about Raging Bolt EX, but it has been this single prize Raging Bolt that's come in and shown a lot of its value as it's able to attack the bench in a format where attacking the bench is so key to victory, disrupting these building decks that are trying to buddy lock you in the active. With this Raging Bolt, you can keep them in check, and it seems like Johan has recognized that here early on. Is going to try and establish a powerful Raging Bolt.
I believe there's additional energy in the hand as well. If so, banking an attachment can be phenomenal to help you get towards a 90 damage spread attack on the second turn of the game. That's where this becomes a very powerful option.
Okay, now we are going to see Johan filling up that bench, I'm sure, with all those resources. We mentioned those Hoots that evolve into Noctowl for the Jewel Seeker ability to find 2 trainers from your deck, and the way Johan's been playing them has been exceptional, trying to keep those options open as we just try and work out what's going on stage there, let the judges resolve any issues for those players.
Yeah, I didn't see too much going wrong, but that opening search was pretty reasonable there, so should be all okay. I think we're just having a count of the amount of cards remaining in the deck for one of our players here, but we'll get confirmation of that. It looked like Johan was on to a really good start there. Getting those Hoot down, so integral to have Jewel Seeker available. Either you can grab that 1 copy of Judge within your deck, try and disrupt down these stage 2s as quickly as possible, alongside taking a knockout, can try and stunt your opponent, but also stops a stab coming back your way. I think that's one of the best defensive options that the Dragapult will use.
Exactly, being able to set up those boards, you don't worry about disruption yourself, and when a deck is relying on evolution to start building up draw, if you get them out of their comfort zone early on with that Judge, it can really change the pace of the game, as that first Dracloak can be harder to find. Typically once the Dracloaks go in, you find more of them, but it's that first bit of draw you're trying to take away, and with so many supporters in the deck that do the energy acceleration, you can actually go for more of a slow-paced attachment approach than this aggressive Judge that with the aggressive Judge to take away the hand.
And targeting down energy is sometimes so critical as we get back into the action, and we will see the eventual turn attachment to the single prize Raging Bolt, in addition to a couple who Johan has to be happy with that turn 1. Let's see how Johan has... Well, straight away, the Ace Nullify ability is online thanks to the Rescue Board tool being attached to the Genesect here, Mike.
Yeah, definitely going to be key. And I just got confirmation of what happened there. A card slipped off the table, and just to make sure that it was all fair, the judge shuffled the deck. And so nothing untoward. And I know on these tables, it's a very different environment to what you're used to. It's quite a big table, so allowing these players to deal with that fairly, the judges got involved. So an Iono played, and 6 fresh cards for both players.
And we need help here. Where are these basic Pokemon? Ultra Ball is found. That was crucial, Mike, because there was only a Genesect in play. But the issue is when we're only finding one potential Dreepy or Budgie, can easily be targeted by this Raging Bolt.
Yeah, you're going to have to look to try and find more than just a single Pokemon here. You've got the Budgie to try and disrupt, but you need to start evolving at the same time. This is the downside of early Ultra Balls. You want to be really finding that Buddy Poffin to build up that bench, or something like the Artisan so you can keep building throughout the game. And it's really tough at the moment for Yoa. Not many options. Yoan's set up pretty much perfectly, and you're really worried about what's coming after this turn.
I think with the Pheasantipity in hand, you can start with Budgie. There's no point in getting just one Dreepy. It'll get targeted and dealt with. So you may as well go Budgie now, try and initiate Itchy Pollen, try and gain additional draws next turn with Pheasantipity EX that's currently sat in the hand, and then hopefully you can work towards your unfair stamps, try and find those Buddy Poffins and get multiple Dreepy down. Because, Mike, it's all about that draw engine, the Recon Directive. When that's online, that's when you have options to see so many cards throughout your deck that you can string together all sorts of combos. So let's get as many of those out as possible just a little bit later.
You say draw engine. With these decks, the draw really comes from those abilities. Many of our best Pokemon in the format have drawing abilities.
And the reason why is because you need to bounce back from hand disruption, the likes of Unfair Stamp, the likes of Iono, but also, in some instances, to make these miraculous comebacks, you need to have 4 or 5 card combos, all in one turn. As we do see the eventual Itchy Pollen, now Yoan will not be able to play any item cards, and was hand disrupted by Iono on that first turn. Is there any means towards a Crispin here? Even a manual attachment can finish off this Budgie. You don't necessarily need much here. See the Area 0 Underdepths. I think it's only a Fighting Energy in his hand. You need a Lightning to be able to launch the Thunderburst Storm.
Yeah, I think with the deck, there is 3 different energy types that we're used to seeing, the Fighting, the Lightning, and the Grass. At least with the Grass, you can start powering up those Ogopons and drawing more cards with Teal Dance. But opting for that Judge, you mentioned it before and how disruptive it can be. This could be a huge moment for Yoa as he's looking to try and build his board out. There's nothing there currently, so this Judge could take him out of the game for ages.
Assuming Yoan finds an energy and can maintain that pressure, it would be massive. I like the use of the Area 0 Underdepths coming down. It means that if Yoan finds any energy, in addition to a Latias EX, he can still use Fan Rotom for a knockout.
True.
He still has potential draw power from Teal Dance as well, if he finds any Grass energy.
Wow, what are the 4 cards? This is a big moment. There's a Pheasantipity there.
Saw Noctowl, but you're shut down by the Itchy Pollen. Yoa may have found a nice bit of wiggle room. It's a pass. He has to be happy with that.
Oh, wow, look at that card. The Brock Scouting, a great way to find more Pokemon. It's typically in there to deal with Budgie and the Itchy Pollen denying you from your item cards. But in this situation, I'm sure Yoa's happy just to get some Dreepies in play.
Decks have really gone towards higher support accounts. And in this case, Yoa is playing 3 copies of Brock Scouting in addition to the 3 copies of Arven, which would then find Buddy Poffin. So you have 6 potential supporters that can just find your additional basics early on in the game. Of course, both Arven and Brock Scouting continue to be useful throughout the game as well. Brock Scouting can also find 1 evolution Pokemon, so it can help you continue to find more Dracloak later down the line, and even Dragapult EX if need be. And those Arven can also chip in with all sorts of helpful items as we pass back over with another Itchy Pollen. But in this case, Mike, we do see Yoan does have the option to Jewel Seeker, and I have to imagine a Crispin is the first option, so we can start ignoring the Budgie and target down these Dreepy one by one.
Yeah, that Noctowl was held in hand, ready for this turn. Such a great way to build up options, build up strategies, combo pieces, and we do typically see the Crispin early on being such a powerful card, so much so that he's taken 2, ready for next turn as well, and that will be an opportunity to take down one of those Dreepies as a Lightning and a Grass. One will be attached from the effect of the Crispin, the other one in the hand. It looks like Yoan's just sending that straight onto that Raging Bolt to be able to attack for 90 to any of those bench Pokemon.
It makes sense. This Budgie was something you sit behind while you build up your draw engine that are also your attackers, and that's why this Raging Bolt is such a vital cog in the machine to simply ignore Budgie, let it keep poking for 10, and target down the more threatening Pokemon. And we start this prize race here in our top 4. Yoan going with the knockout on a Dreepy.
For those of you who watched the recent final in Milwaukee, you'll be familiar with this current board state of using that Raging Bolt to take out the Dreepies or Dracloaks that are seen on the other side, but you might not be familiar with this Maractus that's just been taken out the deck by Yoa.
Maractus has the corner attack for just 1 colorless energy, and straight away we're seeing counter catcher plus the unfair stamp, bringing the Noctowl into the active position. If Yoa can find any energy here, the corner will be attempting to trap this Noctowl, and in particular this is even more powerful thanks to the Ace Nullifier Genesect ability that is currently shutting down Yoan's use of Prime Catcher, one of his usual means of wiggling out of the active.
Well, really hoping to find that on the other side. This Unfair Stamp still has the ability to use a supporter. Both Unfair Stamp and Counter Catcher feel like powers that supporters can do, but in this instant, when behind, when a knockout has happened, able to come in and powerfully attack, but doesn't look like there's an energy there, but Brock Scouting and a Pheasantipity to try and see more cards.
We'll start with Flip the Script then. 3 more cards because Yoa has suffered a KO. Will we find an energy? There it is. And a Buddy Poffin. So we can get an additional Dreepy onto this bench as well. I have to assume that's the right option. We need to continue to establish Recon Directive. We're going to be shuffling up after this, but the corner trap has now been established. We could be here for a while, Mike.
Yeah, that corner coming into a lot of decks at this event as a way to deal with some unusual situations. There is also the 20 damage that comes with it. Ideally, you wouldn't want to do any damage because you'd love for the Pokemon to stay there forever. But on this occasion, we'll build up some so that Dragapult in the future might be able to finish it off.
And there are literally no Professor Turo in the deck, no other means of switching bar the Prime Catcher. So this Noctowl's here. We got to attack with it. Its attack's not great. Speed Wing for 2 colors does 60 damage. So we're locked into that.
And I believe Yoa didn't play a supporter that turn, but had the ability to get a Dracloak out, so he could have started drawing a little bit more, but we'll be able to do that next turn nonetheless with both those Dreepy ready to evolve. And on the other side, we do have that Noctowl. It's definitely something people forget about. It can attack itself.
And it kind of has to. Yoan has no other option, unless you want to sit and allow Yoa to recon directive for 5 turns. I don't like that plan. I want to start attacking into this Maractus, and Yoan agrees.
And how about that maths as well? You've got the corner plus the 60 damage back from the Maractus. It could knock out this Noctowl going into Yoa's turn, but we're looking a bit too far ahead right now. We're looking at building up that board as Yoan is getting as much energy in play as possible, so when he starts attacking with that Raging Bolt EX, can hit those huge numbers enough to take out a Dragapult.
Attaching to the benched Raging Bolt rather than Noctowl here. Just letting it sit. Can't play Prime Catcher thanks to Ace Nullifier. That goes straight back into the hand, caught quickly by Yoa. And now Yoan is thinking, wow, my attachment on the Raging Bolt looks a lot worse. As we pass back over to Yoa, this is the moment he was looking for. Can immediately use the Jacques supporter to grab a couple of evolution Pokemon, and at last he has the breathing room to use his recon directives.
Yeah, that Ace Nullifier going under the radar there from the Genesect. The rescue board was used to retreat it, but had a secondary effect of initiating the Ace Nullifier ability, which denies Yoan from using an Ace spec. Every deck in the format now playing the best possible Ace spec for them, and in this matchup, Yoan wants to use that Prime Catcher to take out big targets, but was denied it, even though Item Lock had stopped. So now the Dracloaks are drawing, the recon directive is going, energies are being attached, and Yoa is building up the board. And
the best news is he can do this for many more turns. Yoan also, I believe, played the only energy in his hand, so may not even have the option to begin attacking with Noctowl just now. Does have access to Nest Ball. Won't change too much of this situation right now, unless he can draw some cards. No new EXs in the prize cards. He can't draw any with that. Another Teal Mask Ogopon. The board is getting a little bit clogged, even though there is Area 0 Underdepths in play right now. At any point, that could be removed from play. And then you wouldn't have room for any of your Raging Bolt EX, which are almost always your sort of end game attackers.
You mentioned earlier that Yoa re-established himself, made his way to the top 8 after making a mistake on stream, and it's very easy to make those mistakes, miss a tool, miscalculate your damage, not quite move the right card into the right place. And on this occasion, Yoan has just overlooked that Ace Nullifier. How do you think he's going to now deal with that post the mistake?
Well, that's what we have to wait and see, to be honest with you. You think he's been composed this entire time and hasn't made those mistakes. That's why we've seen him win a special championship and now get back into the top 4. So you kind of just have to write it off and have a short-term memory in this instance and say, I'm still in a good position in this first game. I still have an hour to prove that I'm going to be worth making it into the final, as we're passing back over to Yoa here with some recon directives.
So many options in that hand. That hand has really grown through the consecutive recon directives. Just that final one there going through. Has the ability now to take some big knockouts. The Brock Scouting now will be brought into play, and looking to find that Latias and a Dreepy. The advantage of that Area 0 Underdepths is that we can now see both players' bench go nice and wide.
And as we talk about this game, there are more games going on. Noah Sakajan has been able to overcome Yan with the End Zoroark deck, so it's going to be another Dragapult making it into the top 4 on the other side of our bracket there. Fantastic to see Noah. He's been having a great time out here in Europe over the last couple tournaments. Had a solid run into Villains, doing one better this time, making it into our top cut and going one step further so far into our top 4.
We actually saw Noah playing against Yoa earlier on. So
that's confusing you, it is us as well.
Yeah, Yoa and Noah all doing so well. But now that Dragapult EX is coming to play, there is now a Terra Pokemon on Yoa's side, allowing that Area 0 Underdepths to activate for him and can go up to 8 benched Pokemon. And it looks like just going to do another corner there, just looking to try and develop that board.
I don't see a reason to not put this Noctowl down to at least 80 damage, and then if you want to become the aggressor, you can from that stage, but it's on your terms. You have one more turn for free as literally Yoan draws and passes. We're back straight over to Yoa, who has recon directive. Possibly a second one could be established now thanks to the Area 0 Underdepths, allowing the additional Dreepy. More attachments on the board as well, Mike, as we said. One of the core issues of the Dragapult archetype is that sometimes it can be pressured. Its energy attachment can all be gone in one foul swoop. So we're seeing the second Dracloak come into the hand now. Being given this much time thanks to the corner trap of Maractus allows you to attach all across your board and make sure you have those backups secured.
And as far as decks go, Dragapult at the moment has some of the most gusting effects we've seen of any deck. 3 counter catcher here for Yoa alongside 3 boss. So it's not going to be hard to find to try and set up that next attack. So the active Noctowl, 1 attack away from being knocked out. And now we have another top 8 match concluding.
Alberto Conti, you saw them on stream, and now they're 2-1 victors over Camille. Another Dragapult in our top 4. Not only doing great in our top cut, but also making it all the way through. Inevitable when it's mirror matches, of course, but another fantastic showing for Dragapult.
And another regional winner, another major event winner from the season.
Yeah, he's doing it
again. Try and make it 2.
So many players are happy with 1, but some of our players at the top, they will hunt for more, as Yoa is now going to use the flying entry from Lucha, setting up more damage. The Latias EX allows you to shift the Maractus if need be, and if we're bossing up the Teal Mask Ogopon EX. The Phantom Dive can come in here. This is the only terrestrial Pokemon currently in play, and it's a 3 prize swing.
What a turn here for Yoa. Been building that up across multiple turns. The corner of the Maractus with that Ace Nullifier of the Genesect, really locking out Yoan from doing anything this turn, and has found a way to take a big knockout. That Noctowl now sitting on the bench with 80 damage, really in a position that can be taken down. So just confirming there, because there's been so many consecutive turns for Yoa, just making sure that was the only supporter played in that turn. But very smartly, Yoa was using things like Brock Scouting and Jack to try and take those cards out of the deck, set up as much as possible, and thin it ready for this moment. Look at that board state for Yoa, though.
It is a dream board position. So many abilities helping out with draw power, securing the options that Yoan can't utilize. Ace Nullifier has been monstrous to this point. There really isn't many options for Johan. If you're going to use a ball search card, you think that Vesentipity could be one of your only options here to draw your way out of this. You finally suffered some KOs, but you need a lot here. With no Terrestrial Pokemon in play, a Noctowl isn't immediately the get out of jail free card that it usually would be.
And you're not going to be seeing a huge amount of options, as you want to be getting that Raging Bolt EX attack off, but then you're putting a 2-prizer in play. And for Yoa, he's so far ahead now that even taking a 1-prizer with that Raging Bolt with 4 energy on won't necessarily do too much. So Yoan having to really reach for something special this turn.
I think we did see Nest Ball. If that can be combined with a Jewel Seeker, we can get somewhere here. That's the first piece of the puzzle. Use our final bench slot to be a Teal Mask Ogerpon EX. There's a Terrestrial Pokemon back on the board, so the Area 0 now opens up for 3 additional bench spaces once again, and the Noctowl crucially is online, and there is an Ultra Ball in his hand.
You've got to give credit to Yoa on the other side, timing this turn so well to establish a board where even if Yoan takes a knockout, there's still another Dracloak ready to evolve up with energy on it. So all of these things really adding up to the high skill level of these top players to try and establish a board. Yoan has played incredibly well up to this point. We saw it in his quarterfinal match, and it has just been that disruption, the early disruption, that's made it incredibly difficult for him to express his skill that he's got.
And ultimately, Maractus is still there. You can always pivot back to defense mode if you have to. If things start getting out of hand, you can go back into one of these Pokemon that aren't fantastic at getting attacks in, then you can trap them for a while longer. You finally see the Ultra Ball now from Yoan post the Teal Dance. The one card you wanted to see first. Now we have the Raging Bolt EX coming into the mix. You would think if you're going to take a knockout on this Dragapult EX, you require this Raging Bolt EX in order to do it. The Bellowing Thunder is able to reach unholy amounts of damage when you combine it with the Teal Mask Ogerpon and many turns of the Raging Bolts having energy as well. But wait, we're growing our single prizer at the same time here.
Yeah, Professor Sada's Vitality putting an energy on 2 different ancient Pokemon, and then you draw 3 cards as the Raging Bolt in the active, plus the Raging Bolt EX on the bench are both ancient Pokemon. There is now so much energy in play. I think we can count that one up for you as I think it's 8 there.
8 energy in play right now. I don't think we saw an attachment just yet either, but I don't see it in the hand. There is an Ultra Ball right now, but the Mew EX is currently the prizes, so we can't draw any additional cards from Restart. That's unavailable. You can't quite reach on an EX Pokemon with your single prize Raging Bolt just yet, so possibly your best option is to take out Dracloak, or maybe even you think Genesect is frustrating enough that you want to take that off the board.
Yeah, imagine that. Yoa re-establishing that afterwards would be a real slap in the face after doing all of this work so far. Incredible disruption in play. You know, you've got a combination of controlling pieces, the Budu item lock, the corner from the Maractus, and the Genesect's Ace Nullifier have really shut down Yoan's ability to do anything this game, but he is establishing a lot of energy in play, typically the first step for a Raging Bolt deck to mount a comeback, and we'll be getting that Noctowl now, a way to try and move this Raging Bolt in the active out of the way, and get an attack off on that Dragapult EX, but there's so many different pieces you now need to try and come back into this. You need a bit of disruption, you need a little bit of a knockout, you need some secondary attackers set up, all while hoping that Yoa is unable to continue, and it opts for that Raging Bolt in the active to take a knockout on the Dracloak.
At least goes down to 4 prize cards, trying to square things up for a couple larger KOs to close the game. But Yoa will continue to draw cards, has that other Dracloak that's already a backup regardless, and has to be content with another Phantom Dive this turn.
You've got that Noctowl that's just got 20 HP remaining, so not only able to take 2 prize cards here, but would be able to sprinkle some damage ready for a future knockout too. And if the Dracloak on the bench is evolved into a Dragapult, there's not much that Yoan can do in response to that, but with these top 4 matches, you do get a little bit of extra time, 75 minutes on the clock, so players do tend to play them out the full distance as they know that they can get a bit more information. They've got the time to do it. There's no rush here. As you can see, still got over 50 minutes remaining, which would be the time frame of a typical Swiss round. So both these players really meticulously playing their way through nice and calm.
Speaking of meticulous, Yoa is going through all the motions here, thinning those additional Buddy Poffin. He doesn't want to see them again. The time has passed for those cards. Also establishing Blood Moon, Ursa, Luna, EX. If all else goes wrong, he at least has that backup option. So he's giving himself a great opportunity here. Now debating the INO before re-establishing his hand even further. This is great here. You've seen Yoan just take a Noctowl to hand. Let's put that straight to the bottom. Give him 4 random cards to play with instead, knowing that you can use your Recon Directive and Vesentipity to top back up on those cards you've just shuffled to the bottom.
Typically that Blood Moon Ursaluna, a worrying Pokemon put into play, has such a high retreat cost of 3, but on this occasion the Latias EX in the deck, a great addition to allow for that free retreat, as we see that Phantom Dive, 200 on the active, and 6 damage counters to play with, and we do see that Noctowl is going to be finished off, 1 on the Fan Rotom, just working out where the rest of those go. Yoa trying to set up game on board.
I feel like it's reasonable trying to spread them on the 210 hit point Pokemon. Putting on who does allow Yoan to evolve that up. Yeah, I think this is a stronger choice. Opens up a final Gust play. Yeah, putting some 1s across the bench does seem most reasonable to me. And you go down to 2 prize cards remaining. Again, really strong play in this game number 1 from Yoa. Using that Maractus so well to get himself from a really awkward position into a fantastic one.
You almost saw him light up as he realised he could do it. The speed of play is often indicative of how excited they are for their next few turns.
True.
And Yoa certainly was right to be excited. It's ended into this position of 1 prize card remaining while Yoan has to get 4. Only the 2 energy on board for Yoan. A lot to do, but can he bring it back here? Would need to find a knockout on the active to try and take away that ability to knock out the Fan Rotom. So he's going to have a lot to work out.
The crucial issue is Yoan has spent Judge, so can't hand Disrupt. Yoa has a large hand, also sits pretty with Vesentipity EX and already Recon Directive on this board. So shouldn't find it too difficult to close out game. Johan has to take a 2-prize KO. That also helps out with Blood Moon Ursaluna as well. And these Raging Bolt all have 240 hit points, so you'd be trying to dodge not only boss's orders, but also just an energy attachment could be enough to close the game for Yoa. Johan has to think on this final turn, how can he get close? With no hand disruption at his disposal, he needs a lot. It's more hope at this stage than expectation.
Yeah, and his knowledge as well. You know, a few of the tricks that Yoa has showed this game are now going to be in Johan's mind going forward. You know, that Genesect shutting down the Prime Catcher, the Maractus, something to think about. You have to be aware that a corner could come out any moment. But information around the Latias EX, the Blood Moon Ursaluna, all been gained through this game and will help Johan going forward. As doesn't matter if you win always in these first games, sometimes you just need to learn as much as you can about your opponent's deck to go forward with the best possible chance.
Yeah, giving yourself the full 75 minutes to make it a slog, but if you know that you have the stamina, sticking in games and forcing your opponent to just use more mental energy is still useful. Making sure they don't trip up at any moment. Yuan is having that final thought whether or not this Sada is the worthwhile choice. Here we go, Professor Sada will accelerate to 2 of these ancient Pokemon, both being Raging Bolt EX. 3 additional cards as you go. Does Jamming Tower change things? We've just drawn into that.
Yeah, I mean, that Jamming Tower shuts down the effects of the tools, but it wouldn't take away that Ace Nullifier effect, as it reads only if there's a tool attached, nothing to do with the effect of that tool. So it would shut down the EXP share that's on the bench Dracloak, which could come in useful in this turn. It would allow you to discard maybe something like that Fan Rotom to take away an easy win for Yoa.
I was trying to think if there was any way that we could remove some of these damaged Pokemon, but it feels like there's just so many. You need the energy on the Teal Mask Gokapon, so you can't simply remove that and Pheasantipity EX.
I mean, that's what you said about the spreading it out as many Pokemon as possible. If you went all in on one, then that Stadium Bump would have been a viable way to heal off damage on the board.
Looks like Yoa has just got so close to where he needs to be. There's the manual attachment of a Lightning from Johan. So the Raging Bolt attack is there. That's guaranteed. That's not an issue. The Jewel Seeker with Noctowl now. Can we get creative with any tools? One Bravery Charm, but again, there's 2 targets that are in range. You can swing it on your active Raging Bolt, so you're not falling prey to the Blood Moon Ursaluna, then you're only losing to boss's orders. Plus a Dragapult EX will also have to be found.
Yeah, and you can see the thinking here for Johan, trying to make it as hard as possible for Yoa. Even though there's no hand disruption, if there is a resource maybe prized for Yoa, that final card, or if a resource has been discarded that's really important in these final stages, it could completely shut down the win condition. And just getting a little bit more energy will make the following attack that bit easier. So asking the most questions, that's the key. And that's going to be the Raging Bolt to the active spot. Where's that Bravery Charm going to go?
I feel like active has to be the thing, so then you're just trying to dodge boss's orders.
Yeah,
well, actually go on to the Fan Rotom.
There we go, not finding that Stadium Bump. I guess if you bump the Stadium, that Bravery Charm would be relevant. But there's going to be all those discarded there. That's a knockout on the Dragapult EX. Do you have the answer here, Yoa? Is it in your current hand? It does have that free retreat with the Genesect.
Going to see the EXP share quickly as well.
Ah, yes. As we draw for turn. Is it there in that hand? Will you have to dig for it? The Night Stretcher comes through, and that's going to be it as we take that energy card onto the Blood Moon Ursaluna, a retreat into it, and a knockout on the active Raging Bolt for game. Yoa takes our first game here in the top 4.
A really impressive display. It looks locked from our position up here, Mike. So much draw power remaining on the board and filtered out pretty much all of his deck. There was only a handful of cards remaining there, so even if he had to fish for those final pieces, he would have been able to access them. A fantastic display. Let's see how he got there. He had an awful start, but all of it comes down to this Maractus, a critical card in this game 1.
And the Counter-Catcher Unfair Stamp combo, both of those effects feel so powerful early on in the game. Counter-Catcher effectively like a boss's orders when you're behind on prize cards, and the Unfair Stamp feels like a late game Iono as your ace spec. So combining those two together with that corner really disrupted Yoa and created the time that Yoa needed to take away the game.
The board is ridiculous. Those abilities just flaunting his board position there and racing ahead in prize cards. And with this damage counter placement, finishing off that heavily damaged Noctowl, was then able to set up multiple EX Pokemon at the same time. He got himself in that position where no matter what cards Yohan was drawing, nothing was going to get him out of that situation.
That board reminding me of our EUIC champions board state, Ryuki, with the Claw Terapagos deck. So many different abilities and effects working together to create an infallible board state.
And wow, what a treat the first half hour's been for us so far. Still 43 minutes remain on the clock, still so much to play for. Yoa able to utilise the Genesect so early and shut down the Prime Catcher from Johan. That seemed like a big deal, and that crucial decision to attach their fighting energy to the Raging Bolt rather than Noctowl will be something that Johan might have in the back of his mind, but he has to shove it further back into his mind because he has 2 more games to play to still try to secure himself into another final.
Exactly, and a lot of information gained for Johan, finding out all the little tricks that Yoa's got in that toolbox of crazy Pokemon that we saw all on the board at the end there. So 1-0 going into our second game of the top 4. You know, Yoa is very much an incredible player. We've seen it, a young player here, recently aged up a few years ago, playing against our Seville champion Johan, and we'll be going first here with that Blood Moon Ursaluna in the active spot, not the ideal start.
We also have the Maractus at the very least. We have a ton of attachments, but there's a reason why Johan wanted to force Yoa first. It's because of the amount of supporters that Dragapult relies on. Also, it's important to note that there were 2 Dracloak in Yoa's prize cards, and we know how vital the Recon Directive is. His action passes over to Yuan for his first turn. He started with the ideal Pokemon, that Fan Rotom. We've seen him fan calling out Hoot Toots in game 1. You got to think he's going to go for it again.
So the winner of this will move to our Utrecht final, but it's a long way for Johan now. After that, game 1 was challenging post-disruption, but now is facing a board much more favourable to him. The worst starter for Yoa in the active spot, the Blood Moon Ursaluna, and not a single Dreepy on the bench. So it couldn't really get much worse for Yoa, and this is a chance for Yoa to come in, establish the dream board state, and really show what this deck is capable of in taking down slow starts.
This would be a nightmare for many Dragapult builds. That Blood Moon Ursaluna simply can't move in some of the lists, or you have to try and find your one copy of Switch. But the way Yoa has built his deck with his own Skyliner, that could help him out. So even though it is a headache, he should be able to find a way around this Blood Moon Ursaluna if possible. But Yoan is attempting to be aggressive here and could try and weave in maybe his EX a little bit earlier in this matchup as well to take an easy knockout that way.
Very true, as we see the single prize Raging Bolt, the MVP of last game for Yoan coming down early, as the fan Rotom with the incredible fan call ability to find 3 colourless Pokemon with 100 HP or less will be activated at some point in this turn, but Yoan just navigating the rest of it to make sure that all of the best cards are found on his board as quickly as possible. The Ultra Ball, what's this card? Oh, that's a tough decision.
Sada and Crispin, you can see why it's a tough one for Yoan. Does opt to get rid of a Lightning Energy and a Professor Sada's Vitality. Let's not forget there's also the option for Squawkability EX if we want it, but it is going to be the Skyliner here to help retreat our fan Rotom. Trying to get into the mix with our other attackers as we go here. 60 damage sets up the Maractus for a 2-shot and puts a couple energy on your Raging Bolt to then be in line for dealing with Dreepies on turn 2. That's why we're seeing the Crispin first here.
Yeah, might start trying to get rid of that Maractus. It was such a diabolical attacker last game, taking away the game for Yoa as the Noctowl got trapped in the active spot. So if you can do 2 swings into it to take the knockout, that would be ideal. But the Latias EX is a prime target for the corner of Maractus, as that free retreat ability would be taken away with the corner. And it looks, there we go, the retreat into the Raging Bolt, 60 damage onto the bench Maractus. And what can you do this turn, Yoa? You now have supporters on board. Let's see how that changes things.
We have a Brock Scouting, and we have Budju available. Well, we're just checking out what's in the deck right now. We've seen it a few times throughout the weekend. The Dragapult is all about trying to establish multiple Dreepy early on, because the recon directive of Dracloak is so vital to draw additional cards throughout the game. So we will be looking to find multiple Dreepy, I would imagine. We're just checking the Exploding Needles ability, I think, there, Yoan is, to see if it works even on the bench. That's what's happening on the table right now. But Dragapult is all about slowly establishing its board. In game number 1, Yoa was able to find the wiggle room with Maractus to corner trap a non-attacking Pokemon for a number of turns. In this instance, it feels like Yoan is already prepped for that and is starting to target the Maractus as best he can. It actually sets up the Maractus for even a knockout with your Noctowl later if Yoa is going to employ the same strategy. So Yoan is already adapting in this game number 2 here.
You know, we talk about the cards coming out of Journey Together and how powerful they are, and Maractus is one very easily overlooked by many players. It's that kind of ability and an effective an attack that only those who have a different way of thinking about the game would highlight and be looking how they can integrate into the game. The controlling style decks, and in this occasion, the Dragapult that has the most controlling elements in it, Maractus fits very naturally into that attacking pool.
Yeah, we did already have Sob, but the fact that this is a single prize Pokemon, so when your opponent does find their means around it, it's only giving up 1, and then even has the Exploding Needles on top of that to punish an opponent, and we know that Dragapult can make use of essentially every damage counter in play. So we are going to see the Skyliner will be helping Yoa move this chunky Blood Moon Ursaluna EX in addition to 1 Dreepy here. We can begin to try and corner trap. We'll just be putting some prep damage onto this Raging Bolt right now, but it also gives Yoa that strange position of, as long as I can unlock Counter Catcher, this Maractus is going to stick around and try and do the same thing it did game 1. So if you target down the Dreepy, I'll go for Maractus. And if you target down Maractus, at least I have Dreepy.
Yeah, and it's going to be the corner there actually onto the Raging Bolt in the active spot. We'll put a little sprinkle of damage, and if the Raging Bolt attacks the Maractus, we'll put it in range of various different numbers, and that's really the mass of the Dragapult deck. Early on, you're thinking about how these little 20s and 10s from the various attacks you have add up and start to lean towards a final game problem-solved scenario. As that Blood Moon Ursaluna's biggest weakness of retreat cost has been taken away. Latias EX on both sides with that Skyliner. Now Yoan has to work out what the go-to plan is here. Are you going to be attacking that Dreepy, or are you worried more about the Maractus running rampant?
It's a rare instance of Yoan being able to play item cards right now, because it's been a Maractus launched, not an Itchy Pollen. First thing we're going to do is find our Terrestrial Pokemon, the Teal Mask Ogopon, before seeing 3 additional cards from the Professor Sadas here.
Really looking for that stadium as well at some point to start going wider, creating more options, trying to get more energy in play. Yeah, we have those 3 energy on the active. And the debate now, Yoan, I don't even think is sure which one to attack. He's going to go for that Maractus, and that will put 6 damage counters back onto the Raging Bolt. And the Blood Moon Ursaluna, weirdly, being promoted to the active. That's something you don't see very often, but with Skyliner, can retreat for free.
And Pheasantipity EX flipping the script will need to help Yoa out here, because I don't think he has much. Does find Buddy Buddy Poffin and Ultra Ball.
About time, really, isn't it?
About time. We'll discard the Buddy Buddy Poffin, as well as the boss's orders. We're going to try and establish 1 recon directive here. Really looking for one of those draw supporters at this stage. Sacrificing a Buddy Buddy Poffin with the Ultra Ball. Something you don't often see, Mike. But in this case, Yoa thinking the other cards are too vital. Some energy in here, another boss's orders. Here's the 2 from recon directive.
I'm looking across the other side. That Raging Bolt, if it stays in the active, or even on the bench, if the full bench of Yoa's basics, Yoa has to be aware that a 90 damage attack to any of his Pokemon will be coming back next turn. So that Dracloak still being there would be vulnerable to being knocked out next turn. So energy attachment might be looking to attack here, and using that Dracloak. You don't see this very often, but it does do enough here. Dragon Headbutt for 70 damage for 1 fire and 1 psychic. All energy removed from Yoan, but that Dracloak sitting vulnerable in the active.
It might force Yoan into a multi-prize attacking Pokemon, and that could be exactly what Yoa is hoping for. A strange sequence. You typically would expect the Buddy Buddy Poffin to be one of the most critical pickups from the Flip the Script. It was discarded for the Ultra Ball just to find this one Dracloak. Yoa's going to try and be the multi-prize basic attacking deck himself here by the looks of things, Mike.
Very weird board state we're seeing here. Atypical of a Dragapult. You'd only know it's a Dragapult by us talking about it so much, but there is all of the other pieces that are typically seen in the big basic attacking decks, and this is now where Yoan has that knocked out finally. Something he's been so proud of at this event is how much he's left those hoots on the bench for as long as possible. The later you do it, the more likely it is to be a game-changing moment, as we do see a Nestball and a Crispin coming down.
Yeah, might be thinking twice about that. Depends if there's any energy in the hand at all. Typically you would prefer the additional draws from Sada helping you out. It is in the end still going to be Crispin. Nestball can come in pretty contently here. It's going to be the Pheasantipity EX. Crispin can still help out attacking with a few different Pokemon here. Really depends on what's in the hand right now. Yoan could be expecting to just draw as much as possible with Pheasantipity and a Teal Dance. You could even attack with the Ogerpon itself. With a Teal Dance, a turn attachment of Grass, and the Crispin's Grass Energy, you can get there.
Yeah, this is not what I was expecting to have to deal with here. The attacking Dracloak is sitting there, and that would be a great knockout for Yoan, as it would give him a bit more time to set up and get going. But now there is that Pheasantipity in play for drawing of 3 cards, so seeing more options now, and there's actually the Professor Sada's Vitality, which will be useful in the future. And the Grass Energy got attached from the Crispin, an interesting choice.
Because we're trying to use energy retrieval or an Earthen Vessel here, so we can Teal Dance and manually attach a Grass. So you just hold the Lightning, possibly even pitch it, and then we can set up the Sada and still get the attack in with our Teal Mask Ogerpon.
Yeah, we see the Earthen Vessel in hand, so that'll be able to find those 2 Grass Energy, and a very interesting route we're taking here. That Ogerpon can attack for those 3 Grass Energy. A Myriad Leaf Shower would be available this turn. The Crispin normally takes the Grass Energy to hand, so you can use it with your Teal Dance, but on this occasion, 3 energy accelerated to 1 Pokemon. Not very easy to do with this deck, but it has been done, and that will be a great attack response using the Teal Mask Ogerpon. There's the first Grass Energy, there's the manual attach. First energy from Crispin, Teal Dance and attach, and retreat for free with that Skyliner. Dracloak, you did your job knocking out the Raging Bolt, but now your draw engine is gone.
I can tell you, Mike, I was expecting a response KO on this Dracloak, but not the way we're seeing it. A Myriad Leaf Shower coming out from Yoan, just saying, Yoa, you really can't deal with this Pokemon. I may as well just keep as many energy around the board as possible. It's a Pokemon that can keep announcing knockouts turn by turn without having to lose resources. And we're even seeing the next Jewel Seeker finding Nestball plus Area 0 Underdepths. What an interesting sequence. I've not seen a matchup like this play out between these 2 decks, even though they've been around for so long, so popular. Just shows how unique the Pokemon trading card game can be at this high level.
And we saw the first match kind of went typically how it does for Raging Bolt into the Dragapult. You're trying to lean into that snipe, but then eventually sometimes the Dragapult comes back and takes you down, and this has gone completely the other way, where both players are using non-traditional attackers, and it will be the Teal Mask Ogerpon knocking out a Dracloak, which just knocked out the Raging Bolt previously. So Blood Moon Ursaluna is the only attacker left on board, but this is not going to be an attack this turn for Yoa.
Instead, he's got to look towards defense mode again. Can he weave an Itchy Pollen? Can he get Maractus back in any capacity alongside a Genesect? I think with Night Stretcher and a Ball Search card in hand, we've seen him value the Defiance Band all game, and I think we're seeing why, Mike. I think we're establishing Genesect here, and it's going to be once again the corner trap, the way we won our first game. Yoa once again defaulting back to this line of play.
Well, if you need time, this is the way to do it. Maractus creates a plethora of time, and there's lots of targets for what that could be used for. The counter catcher there being discarded, so we know Yoa will have a way to gust up something. And the Genesect, a key fundamental part of this strategy. Prime Catcher is the only way out for Yoan to deal with this trap, and by putting the Genesect in play, you deny the Prime Catcher as well. So down it comes, Dreepy 2, start setting up that next one. Defiance Band there, Boss's orders on the Latias, and we're going to be trapping for a little bit longer.
So many players, Mike, would have kept the Buddy Buddy Poffin over that Defiance Band, but Yoa had this exact strategy in mind for many turns, and now we're seeing it pay off.
That foresight from Yoa is incredible. Wise beyond his years, as he is 11-1-1 here in Utrecht for a reason. Yoa on the other side, our Seville champion, looking to try and make it 2 in the top 4 here, is fighting from the back foot, losing that first game, where Yoa really set up the game through this corner Maractus and is looking to do it again on the Latias EX.
And Latias simply doesn't have the required energy to attack in this deck. There's no way to do it. And there's no way for Yoan to move either. So this Latias is going to take quite a few more corners, Mike. Prepare yourself to say this attack a few times, because Yoa will be able to do so much. He's going to be able to slowly build an army of Dracloak once again, and in doing so, damage this multi-prize Pokemon all the way up to 200 damage, set himself up for a huge dust effect, and actually looking at the amount of cards remaining in deck for Yoan, thinking, am I even going to win that way round?
Yeah, the deck out. The reason why we said corner having the 20 damage could be seen as a negative thing in a lot of cases, because you ideally want to trap something for the rest of the game. But with the amount of HP on that Latias, that is going to be quite a lot of time. You've got at least 10 turns of using this corner, which is a lot of cards for Yoan to draw, but Yoan doesn't have an easy way to get him back in because his judge is prized. So every card that Yoan draws will stay in his hand if Yoa wants it to be there.
Everything now seems to be going Yoa's way. Has so much time on his hands, we'll be able to rack up this damage for free. This corner from Maractus has been incredible.
These turns from Johan, just slamming it straight back, does have the energy being built up on the board, but now Johan has more than enough energy to take a knockout. He's not worried about that anymore. No. He's worried about running out of cards in his deck, and that's why he's not choosing to play any of these effects like a Professor Sada's Vitality or using that Crispin would take energies out of the deck. You have to be really careful not to deck yourself out. Johan's
created this gotcha moment, and it really does feel like it. I can't see a way for this Latias to do anything but take hits. Johan has no answer in his deck.
So in the Pokemon TCG, you have to take a knockout on 6 prize cards worth of Pokemon to win the game, or knock out the final Pokemon in play on your opponent's board. But there is a rarer way you can take a win, and that is through deck out. And we've seen it in the past, a lot of decks doing it more in previous formats, but it's been a while since we've seen that be a win condition. This Maractus coming out and Journey Together has opened up that possibility for lots of different decks. In an alternative win condition, if Johan looks to draw a card from his deck and there's no more cards to draw, he will lose the game.
And Johan is not doing much but his routine recon directive every turn and continuing to announce corner. He knows that he's happy to keep seeing additional cards, give himself more access to other options. There could be a point where he evolves this Dracloak into a Dragapult, and then he's able to use Area Zero as well, don't forget. He has to be chuffed with himself, laying this trap, and Johan again falling for it.
And it's a card you rarely see in Dragapult, has been getting more popular recently as people trying to find different ways to win certain matchups, and this is one of those matchups where corner was added in. You know, we saw Raging Bolt take down Milwaukee, destroying many a Dragapult along the way. And this response from Johan, this deck adaptation is so smart as we see another 20 damage go onto that Latias EX. That's now 7 corners in a row.
Christian Labella in his interview said, "Don't know if I'll keep playing Raging Bolt because it's easily countered." And he mentioned Maractus at the time. Looks like Johan was listening because he's incorporated this exact strategy in our top 4. It's how he won game number 1. And it looks like he's getting ever closer to winning the second game as well.
Well, his deck's going to be getting thin, but he does have ways to put stuff back into deck or reset the game, and maybe at this point, not worried about deck out, but just that damage accumulated on the Latias EX will put Johan in a great position to finish the game. So using that Brock Scouting to find the Dragapult, and we are now in those final few corners on the Latias. 160 damage done so far. 2 more corners will put it within range of a 10 damage sprinkle.
Johan still has to get in this position where he has Dragapult ready to attack, maybe even have another Dracloak on the bench as well. You can see he's lining up item cards in his hand for when he eventually breaks this lock.
Yeah, such a good visionary with this deck. Johan showing exactly why this Maractus is something to worry about. Now has 1 more corner before he has to start doing something, so we'll look to set up more than just the knockout. He's just going to be doing 1 final corner before he bursts into a damaging turn.
Well, don't forget, he's still behind on prizes. He could bring up another Pokemon and damage it a bunch. There's so many energy in play. Can the Pheasantipity EX even gain enough energy to launch an attack, or would that be another Pokemon he could trap?
Exactly, that would be a huge turn now. Is the Pheasantipity coming up here to trap? Or are we seeing a different strategy? Dragapult Evolution, Area Zero under depths is now available to Johan. He can put more Pokemon in play, and Pheasantipity EX will be put into the active with Counter Capture, and is now going to be using corner once again. Johan has another Pokemon trapped in the active.
Johan plays 5 Grass Energy, 3 Fighting, 3 Lightning. We have 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 energy committed to the board already. I think it's trapped, and I don't think we're able to Cruel Arrow either. This is a sad realization for Johan.
And next turn could even attack to win the game. A Hawlucha here onto the bench will knock out the Latias EX, put that Fan Rotom in range, and here we see it, 10 damage apiece on either side, and the Dragapult EX to knock out the Pheasantipity and that Fan Rotom. Johan, what a masterclass. Phantom Dive for the win, and Johan is making the Utrecht final.
An absolutely incredible set we've seen in this top 4. Johan, shout out that Maractus because it put in